Welcome to the stream, everyone. Hey, Sarah.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Good
Welcome.
morning.
Welcome. Hello. We're waking up. I've got tea. How's everyone doing?
I
Let
love
us
I,
know
I
in the
love that for
comments.
you. I love
Oh,
that for you. That I wish I had tea. That sounds great. If you've never popped on to one of these, this is Science Fiction Story Club, in which I'm on the road today, so the setup is a little more awkward. Sarah Ray Warner and Sarah is going to introduce herself shortly, and as will I, are working our way through this anthology of short science fiction stories. This is part of a larger short story project on Thursdays. Currently, although that could shift, we are reading short horror stories. On Friday, we're doing writing workshops. There's a Discord. Welcome, welcome. And today we're going to talk about a story called The Last Poet and the Robots by A. Merritt. Not me, a
not you.
different A. Merritt, Abraham Grace Merritt, who died in 1943, RIP. The Last Poet and the Robots. Anyway, welcome. We're so glad you're here. If you're here, let us know in the comments. Let us know that you're tuned in. Sarah, do you want to tell us who you are?
Yeah, I would love to. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Ray Werner. I am a writer and podcast producer and creator of other various things living in the Midwestern United States. We are having a beautiful fall day today, so I'm all cozied up with some tea. Let's see, what else can I tell you? I have two podcasts: the Right Now podcast, which is nonfiction for writers, Girl in Space, which is an audio drama about a girl in space. And then I also produce my husband and partner Tim's audio drama, a fantasy audio drama called Omen. So if you haven't listened to that yet, you have a lot of stuff to listen to. It's great.
So
Asa,
much
how
stuff
about
to
you?
listen to.
I
Yes,
know.
yes. My name is Asa Merritt. I'm currently starting a NaNoWriMo alternative, which I'm dubbing the Ray Bradbury Challenge. Ray Bradbury came out and said that if you, for 1,000 nights, read one poem, read one short story, and read one essay, you will have whatever you need, all the tools to write whatever you like. So for NaNoWriMo this year, I am embarking on that. And so by way of show don't tell biography, that is who I am at the moment. My background's in screenwriting. I'm a new fiction writer. I wrote a series for Audible. Anyway, and what I'm doing now is learning how to write short fiction vis-a-vis reading, and that's what we're here to do today. So, the story in question. This is called The Last Poet and the Robots. We have a Russian scientist slash musician slash creative called Narodny. And essentially, the story is about this weird guy who's smarter than the whole human race, who's created this little magic world for himself deep in the earth, which is then threatened. He comes back to the surface to raise hell. The end, kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah. So if you
Kind
haven't
of.
read the story, don't worry. We will give a more thorough summary throughout, read passages, that kind of thing. But that is the gist. And I think for me, and this could be a place to kick off even, Sarah, is that like some of the richest parts of this story are these descriptions of this mile deep cave system of wonder where there are moons underground, there are suns, there is access to all human history that you can watch like a Netflix show, and you can watch the Aztec Empire rise and fall. Yeah. So, one place we start is, Sarah, what was it like for you as a reader? Like, what was your reading experience reading The Last Poet and the Robots?
I was enthralled with this story, not because the narrative was exceptionally good or anything like that. I was fascinated by Narodny, who is, I'm not sure if I know the right term for this, but he is a human being who really hates other human beings. Like he doesn't necessarily want everyone to die in a fire, but he wouldn't feel bad if everyone died in a fire. So this is why he goes underground. He's a scientist, musician, poet, like Asa said. And what I found so interesting and compelling about this character was how much I hated him. And in spite of that, how interesting he was. And I think what bothered me the most was he's somebody who claims to love poetry and music and art and hate people. And for me, there's such a deep connection between creative work and humanity, right? Like you hate everyone, maybe except for Beethoven because you like Beethoven's music, or you maybe he like so powerfully separates the art from the artist that he doesn't even think that it was created by a human. I and he also just he's completely almost like a Vulcan from Star Trek. He is completely emotionless and super logical above everything. And this is really, really what bothered me because, he calls himself a poet and a musician, but he has no empathy. He has no emotion. He has no connection to other people. And like as a creator myself, as a writer, and this may or may not be true for you, everybody has their own reasons for writing and creating. The reason I create is to connect with other people. So so the whole story, like throughout it's a very simple, small narrative. It's 30,000-foot overview of just what happens. It's just a simple, here's what happens. But like what really got me was like, this person is a huge contradiction. And I hate him, but also I'm curious. So okay, that was my biggest, that was what I was fixating on when I was reading through this story and taking tons of notes. So how about you, Asa? How did this hit you?
Well, that definitely was central to my reading experience as well. This was, in a way that sticks out, a character that I disliked. There was none of that like, ooh, you're a villain, but you're sexy. You're like, or like
Yeah.
none of that kind of like, oh, you're a bad person, but I'm still rooting for you. This was
Mm-mm.
just someone who was cruel, selfish,
Yeah.
really did not care who
No.
died or who lived for the sake of their little private universe. Just for context of the story, this guy Narodny, he's not totally alone. He's created this
Right.
world deep under the earth with a total of 10 people. So
10 people who he can
yeah,
stand.
yeah. The author of the story, Mateo Leon Rodriguez, is an author named Abraham Grace Merritt, no relation to myself, who went
That we know
by
of.
A Merritt. Yeah, that I know of.
Like,
Yeah, that he went by A Merritt was his fiction name, and apparently he had a background as a journalist, and sci-fi was kind of one of his many side interests. So he has a little bit of an interesting background.
yeah.
And anyway, though, yeah, I mean, so my reading experience was I was compelled by the imaginative world created under the earth. It's not just like people living under the earth. This was like entire solar systems under the earth. So
Yes.
I thought that was deeply impressive from an imagination feat. I think that's where some of these great sci-fi stories really sing, is that they truly take us someplace that we could never dream of in a million years. I was
Yeah.
compelled by that. And I think because he was such a loathsome and kind of one note character,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
experience reading this was I kind of quickly kind of like put my little reader antennae not on him, even though
Mm.
typically kind of we're trying to align with a character, we're living through their emotions. Instead, I was kind of turned my attention into other elements of the story, namely this world, namely what it was trying to say about robots and artificial intelligence, and trying to kind of like, so that was the reading experience that I had, was
Mm.
kind of like, as I was reading, trying to figure out where my attention was most excited and then putting it there. Because yeah, from the jump, I wasn't really compelled
Mm-mm.
by this character.
Well, and I know for you, that's something that you in particular, Asa, are really interested in is unlikable main characters. Like we've talked about this before in other stories. And what really got me was if you look at how the narrator treats Narodny, the Russian scientist slash musician slash every cool thing you can never be as cool as Narodny, um, it's with a certain it's with a huge distance, first of all, and it is not with kindness. It is not with any sort of connection to this person. The narrator in this story, it's third person omniscience, and it switches point of view from like following Narodny to following some other folks later on. And what we get is Narodny is very baldly showed to us as being a narcissist, as being uh almost, I don't know, a sociopath, even a psychopath. Um And especially toward the end of the story, the narrator casts a little bit of judgment on Narodni's decisions and actions. Um, and we can get into that a little bit later as we get toward the end of the story. But um, I did find myself sticking with the story. But Asa, like, given your interest in unlikable main characters, like, how is this different from the ones that fascinate you? Like, how is this different from the ones you like?
Yeah, well, I think it's just like the animus for their actions is nothing besides self-preservation.
Oh,
You know what I mean? I think it's kind of what you were saying, that the point of, like, take for example, like Iago. So just quick hit here on Iago. Iago is the villain of Shakespeare's Othello. He is trying to bring down the Moor of Venice Othello. Why? Because he was passed over for a promotion. And he might be like, there's also hints of like, maybe he's like sexually jealous. Every reason in which like Iago wants to bring this person down is so relatable. It's like, I got passed over for a promotion. Who can't relate to that? You know, and it's like we still love that story today and stage it thousands of times a year. Like, so it's like here it's like, I can't relate to being a genius.
Mm-hmm.
I can't relate to like basically being a wizard. I mean, this guy can somehow move moons and stuff. And so because I can't relate to him, and he doesn't want, I don't know. Yeah, nothing he wants is resonated for me.
It's not human. So, oh, Asa, I love that you say this. This is so good and so rich. It really struck me reading through this story. Again, quick background: there's a underground cave system of hundreds of caves. Narodni and his 10 people, who he has chosen to live underground as angry isolationists, have their own source of perpetual energy. They basically take rocks and mountains and like transmogrify them into energy, which is how they project the suns and the moons and all of these wondrous, beautiful caverns beneath the earth. They're hanging out, they're doing their own thing. These people who don't care about culture, who watch culture repeated to them over and over through the rise and fall of civilizations, whatever. There's just so much hypocrisy here. It just blows my mind. They're living underground. They don't care about the world above until there's a war going on. They still don't care until their enjoyment of their underground paradise is threatened. The music pauses. And Narodni's like, that's it. You pause my music? So one thing that I was thinking about as I was reading this story was on page 127, we're at the very top of 127. Narodni is the Russian, as he is called, is going through, essentially, like Asa said, his Netflix. Like this, he's using this energy to like replay classical history, ancient history, classical stories. And some of this is I'm just going to read, if it's okay, I'm going to read a short passage.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. Deep down in the earth, within the caverns, were music and song and mirth and beauty. Gossamer nymphs circled under the little moons. Pan piped. There was a revelry of antique harvesters under the small suns. Grapes grew and ripened, were pressed, and red and purple wine was drunk by bacchanals who fell at last asleep in the arms of fauns and satyrs. This callback to Greek mythology got me thinking about Narodni as a Greek god.
Yes.
And
their little pantheon under the world. There's 10 of
Yeah.
them. They come from kind of various representations. All over the 2 are Chinese, 2 are Russians. There's 3 women, 1 from the Basque country. You know, it's like, yes, this like elite group.
Yeah. And they're living under the earth. They're judging humanity. And just like, and I'm not going to say I'm a scholar in anything Greek related, but just from the stories I've read and the interpretations that I've experienced with Greek mythology, the gods are largely disinterested in things until it begins to affect them. And that's exactly what spurs Narodny to act. He doesn't care that there's a war going on, that machines are overtaking the world, that, AI is wiping out humanity. He only cares when his music gets paused. And so I'm wondering, and I feel like that was specifically called out. The reason I specifically read that passage was because it's talking about the nymphs and, grapes and Bacchus and all of that sort of stuff. And I think that's very much on purpose by the author.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, I like that. I agree with that. I mean, one thing that I think we should point out here, to sort of play devil's advocate briefly, or to make this guy as interesting as possible for the sake of this conversation. One thing about it is that his lack of love for anything is paired with a lack of hate for anything. There's almost a Buddha-like quality that on the surface, we can read as kind of indifference or disinterest or lack of empathy, compassion. But one thing it says here, speaking about mechanization, Narodny did not hate mechanization. He was indifferent to it. Being truly intelligent, he hated nothing.
I liked that line.
Yeah, me too. So it's kind of like, if we take as a base premise that eventually humans are going to burn themselves into the ground, like, can we judge him that much? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, we can, and we do, and we are, and we will. But I just think that, like, there is the fact that he doesn't hate anything. That's also godlike, I suppose, and impossible, which makes him hard to connect to, but also praiseworthy at some level, right? I think. I don't know. I mean, maybe it just makes him more like an alien.
Maybe.
But he doesn't.
Maybe our hatred is important.
Right.
I don't know. Like, why is art created? Like, I keep going back to, like, the last poet. Near the end of the story, I was like, how dare he call himself a poet? How smug. He has so much disdain for humanity. He hates, and yet he claims the title of poet. It's just, his lair underground, maybe a little super villainous. Like, he's maybe a little bit of a super villain. Have you read Watchmen by Alan Moore?
No.
He reminds me just a little tiny bit of Dr. Manhattan in that story, who is this like super powered guy who's just done and detached from helping or harming humanity. And it's just some interesting vibes there. But yeah, where would you like this to go from here? Because I can talk about a bunch of different things.
Yeah, well, let's follow one of your instincts here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, I think Lore Huntress, if you're in here, Sarah said you had thoughts about this story, so I'd love to hear them if you care to share. Yeah. Oh, Mateo Leon Rodriguez has something to say here. With all this talk of satyrs and wine, could he represent Pan or Dionysus?
Yes. Maybe. I think
those guys have way too much fun for this guy.
Yes. This is more of like a Zeus. This is more of like a and again, my Greek knowledge is faulty, but it's more of a distant, measured, almost very stoic, but without any of the humanity of stoicism. Very, very detached. And while he enjoys things, he doesn't seem to take pleasure from them. So you would say, like, oh, he's a hedonist. He just wants to surround himself with beauty and light. But he enjoys looking at it. I got the feeling he enjoys like looking at it, but it doesn't move him, emotionally, spiritually, whatever that means for you. And so he's this like detached demi-human who ends up saving humanity ? And that's where the story really, really takes us to. So actually, before that, though, Asa, you mentioned that you really loved some of the writer's descriptions. Do you have any that are like especially salient for you?
Love that. Love that question. I mean, the sort of hit list of history was very cool, but let me just see if I can find something. I mean, it was just so fantastic. 20 miles up in the far reaches of the stratosphere, a faintly sparkling cloud grew,
Mm,
like a condensation of cosmic dust.
mm.
And just before dawn, the rock of the hill behind the house melted away like a curtain that had covered a great tunnel. I mean, there's just so much of that. That's so
It's
typical and can't really, take that for granted,
no, it's on
that
every page.
it's on
Like
every
he's a
page.
very skilled writer.
Right. And so, sort of, the wondrousness and life affirmingness of the prose, if you will, is contrapunctual to his humanlessness, his
Right.
lack of humanity.
Right. Right. I thought it was interesting. I think it was last Monday. We did a impromptu story club about Thomas Ligotti, who is famously, in addition to being an antinatalist, also a hedonist. Like, so the opposite of a hedonist. Like he's said in many interviews that he's detached. He cannot feel pleasure. He cannot like take joy in things, which is where his nihilistic worldview comes from. I saw a lot of that in the introduction here from the Vandermeers talking about Abraham Grace Merritt, or A. Merritt. He has. Have you ever read Miniver Cheevy?
No.
Okay, there's a poem called Miniver Cheevy, and it's Miniver Cheevy Born Too Late. And it's this person in, I think, we'll just say modern times. When it was written, I think it was early 1900s. But Miniver Cheevy, this whole poem is lamenting this person who says, if only I had been born in the days of knights and damsels in distress, and I would have been a great knight. And instead, I'm here wasting my life. And I got a little bit of that sense from this story. And I think where I'm going with this is it says here, like outright, A. Merritt was the premier fantasy genius of his time. He is the number one fantasy, sci-fi / a little horror writer in the story was published in 1934 as part of a round robin novel, which I'd never heard of, and I'm very excited to investigate. Um, but yeah, he used his journalism career to fund. He had some gardening hobbies. He wrote sci-fi. He wrote fantasy. He is known for so I bring up Miniver Cheevy because I feel like A. Merritt is a little bit in that vein. He imagines these worlds. It says he has this escapist yearning for otherness and mystery that he has expressed has seldom been conveyed with such emotional charge nor with such lucid underlying pessimism. For his tales seldom permit a successful transit from this world. His vision is a universe whose indifference to humanity reads like malice. And I think that is very embodied in the character of Narodny. But it's very interesting. The Miniver Cheevy sort of bridge here is that this story takes place in the 30th century, but Narodny is nostalgic and wistful for the 19th century. He even
and even more than that, like the classical tradition. I mean,
yeah,
this feels this like is giving slight like various strains of like white nationalism over the year
yeah,
vibes, like Fourth Reich vibes, like even Rome, just kind of like harkening back to this golden era.
yeah.
And yeah, so maybe there is a tongue in cheek there to A. Merritt, or that he's like kind of putting in front of us. He's like, y'all, listen, we're in the year like 2962 and we're still talking about like the good old days, and so maybe there's a degree of kind of satire of that lionization of the past, of the canon, right? I mean, everyone being cited here, like Beethoven, you know what I mean? Like it's all very this like starkly kind of Western tradition, and I don't know. I think the 30s, I think maybe he's thinking about some of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I wonder too. Well, there's I say this every time. There's so much going on here with, is I think A merit is definitely to some degree, and I hadn't thought of it as like that sardonic sarcasm kind of thing, but I really like that. I like that take on it because I do think he's also judging Narodny pretty harshly.
Yeah, talk to us more
Yeah.
about that. Where's that
Okay.
coming through for you most
That came
acutely?
through for me closer to the end. So basically, what happens is um, Earth is threatened. And by that, I mean the partner Rodney cares about is his music might stop playing. And he does not like that. He is annoyed. The word that the story uses is he's not afraid. He's not like fearful for the state of humanity. He is simply annoyed. And he marches off to like take action because how dare they? And basically he learns, and I don't know if he knew this or how much he knew. They get news from the surface every once in a while, it seems. But they project themselves using their amazing technology into an incoming ship that has what I interpreted to be robot prisoners on board. And they were bringing these robot prisoners back to Earth. And they're like, okay, we need to like figure out what's going on with these robots so we can stop them because I want my music. And they take this ship into their lair, they absorb it, and in doing so, they kill all of the humans on board. And they're like, here,
Unflinchingly, right? They're like, nope.
unflinchingly.
Yeah.
Can I just like I want to read this part. And actually, I just flipped by this page 128. Narodny stirred and sat up, his lean, high-cheeked face more satanic than ever. Like,
yeah, I saw that too.
Merritt
I
just comes out and
underlined
says
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, satanic. Like what?
Like and at that point in the story, this is still early on in the story. I'm like, really satanic? But then like, yeah, it comes out that it is. So let's see. Okay, I found it. So he says, Lau, who is kind of like his second in command, I guess, or just the person he hates least, who's living underground with him. He's sort of their leader, and he's telling Lau, you know, I think that we can do something here with like emotion and sound. You know, the robots have consciousness. They are quote unquote alive, which means they have emotional responses, which says a lot about Narodny. And they devise this like idea to bring them down with like a sonar type of weapon, but they need to develop the sonar weapon because it's just theoretical at this point. And so Narodny says, exactly, but we must have a few robots with which to experiment. To do that means to dissolve the upper gate, which is they're going to pull in a ship. Bring it down, or excuse me, but that is nothing. Tell Maringi and Eurofsini, whatever, to do it. Net a ship and bring it here. Bring it down gently. You will have to kill the men in it, of course, but do it mercifully.
And right, like, yeah. So there's some kind of nod towards humanism. There's some kind of nod towards like a moral structure.
Yeah.
But really just a nod because it's like you're going to murder innocents, but just be nice about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's like the first hint that I was like, something is very wrong with this character. And then later on, I need to read this to you. So they pull in the ship. The door opened. Out came two men, the pilots, cursing. The pilots staggered then and crumpled to the ground. In the airship, which is the ship they brought in, half a dozen other men slumped to the floor, smiled, and died.
Oh my god, I had missed the smiled part. I guess that's the like, merciful. It's like laughing gas, fatal laughing
but
gas.
Like that reads to me as horror. Like to Narodny, it's like, oh, they're happy. They died happy. That makes it okay. To us, we're like smiling as you die is like that's Joker material. Like that is so sinister. Like dying with this like fake manipulative smile on your face. Like that's horrifying. That's horrifying. And so two things real quick. They come right after the other. I just really liked this. The robots speaking to each other. They say robots assemble, which is very like Avengers, Transformers. I love that has been like gently lifted maybe from this story and used in our pop culture today. He also invented lightsabers on page 130.
What?
He's holding here. Let me read this to you, okay? I'm so into this. Okay. in the hand of one of those who had come through the tunnel, so this is one of Narodny's like 10 people, was what might have been an antique flashlight. From it sped a thin green flame. It struck the foremost robot on the head, sliced down from the head to the base of the trunk. Another flash, and the green flame cut him from side to side. He fell, sliced by that flame into 4 parts. These guys have lightsabers, and they are like cutting up these robots.
I'm so glad you caught that.
Thank
You're
you.
so
I'm very-
right. It's like, this is the lightsaber.
Yeah. So like 1934. Sorry, George Lucas. Yeah, you must have read this, or this might have been part of pop culture, or just maybe Star Wars popularized the idea of lightsabers, but A. Merritt did it first in his disturbing story that we are reading today. But okay, that's not where I was going with that. I just got sidetracked, and I'm sorry. Can we go back to
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing really was Narodny causes the death of the 8 or 9 people on board this airship, and they slumped to the floor, smile, and died. Later, this was actually almost more disturbing to me. When he perfects his essentially like sonar super weapon to kill all of the robots, it's almost cruel. He says, "Hey, robots, do you understand art? Do you understand music? Do you know how to," and I've never heard anyone use this word, "do you know how to poetize?" And the robots are like, "No." And he's like, "Have you ever danced before?" And they're like, "No." And he's like, "You're gonna learn." And then he like flips the switch, and they all go into convulsions.
Oh, God.
And it's like simultaneously played for like humor, but also it's can I read one more thing here?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So it's playing this like note. It's the frequency at which robots disintegrate, as opposed to the temperature at which books burn. So this is the frequency at which robots disintegrate. Suddenly, the feet of the robots began to move, to shuffle. Their leg joints bent, their bodies swayed. The note seemed to move here and there about the chamber. They always followed it grotesquely, like huge metal marionettes. They followed it. Their bodies quivered, and from their voice mechanisms came a shriek that was a hideous blend of machine and life.
Yeah, I like that you're pointing out that this does wade into horror territory.
Yes.
Just these last little moments that we've been dissecting definitely increases my sense that this is like satire.
Yes.
Because literally everything he says is like outrageous.
Yes, and and purposefully hypocritical.
Right.
And the narrator has purposely distanced. If the narrator is the same person as A. Merritt, this narrator has distanced himself and continues to distance himself from Narodny. Though, as a journalist, I feel like A. Merritt is sort of like reporting on this person, though their judgment gets through sometimes by calling him satanic, So I just, the screaming, he continues killing the robots. In the cities, the people cowered, not knowing what blow was to fall upon them, or milled about in fear-maddened crowds, and many more died. So just as many humans are dying because there is, buildings are falling down, robots are like stampeding out of the city. This is happening all over North America. And then suddenly the dreadful droning, the shattered tempest, the intolerable high piping ended, and everywhere the people fell, sleeping among the dead robots as though they never had been strung to the point of breaking, sapped of strength and abruptly relaxed. Everyone collapses. A lot more people die. A few robots remain. The remaining humans who are still alive rise up, destroy those robots, destroy the robot factories. And then one more thing, and then I'd like to, I think, discuss this. And well, maybe the ending too. So Lau, his like second in command, says, "Many men died, but many are left. They may not understand, but to them it was worth it." Narodny mused, "It drives home the lesson. What man does not pay for, he values little. Our friends aloft will have little opposition now, I think." And our friends aloft means the human like space navy, the fleet up there. But there's so much here with killing robots with music, but also leveraging music to, by somebody who is very cold and detached and inhuman, like killing these robots, which do feel and do have emotion. Like they're a hive mind, but they do still have, like, they have fear and they have feelings.
Wow. Yeah, that's like such a great point. I mean, he goes out of his way to make the case that they're feeling and thinking
And
while
screaming as they
simultaneously
die.
being, and then just, but we need to kill all of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like, is this a genocide? Did anyone ask Narodny for his help?
Right. Yeah, great point. I mean, maybe because it did say that lots of the humans were okay with the robots.
Yeah. Yeah, he just swoops in and he's like, "You're gonna die. Ugh, finally, I can go back to listening to my music in my cave." And maybe that is also a commentary about, like, I don't know, the Greek gods sort of ruler. Maybe it's a little political of what was going on at the time, but it's devastating.
It's it's so dark. Yeah, I mean, okay, let's talk about the end and
Yeah,
see
yes.
what that gives us. So this is the last paragraph, just for context, everyone.
Yes.
Narodny watched the ships take off. He shook his head doubtfully, but soon harmonies were swelling through the great cavern of the orchids and nymphs and fauns dancing under the fragrant blossoming trees, and the world was again forgotten by Narodny. Right. So he leaves the world because he's like, humans are terrible. So I'm going to go create a happy universe under the ground.
In a bunker.
That universe gets threatened by robots. He goes up, literally destroys the earth, just like total chaos. This is like nuclear apocalypse, basically. And then he goes back down and listens to his music again. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just don't know what to do with this story. The title of this story, if you're just popping in, is called The Last Poet and the Robots. And I don't know. Okay, here's something that was like a slight little, like, I rubbed up against.
Okay.
Was it kind of kept identifying Narodny as this like singular, the one, the most intelligent, all these things, but he was down there with these other people that he selected. And there was at some level, some kind of society. So that was like something that I kind of, why is this all about him? When in fact, it's kind of all about these 10 people.
You get the feeling maybe that this was all, like, he's the leader somehow. This was his idea. I think he initially bought the land in, I don't know if it was Montana or something. It's wide open country with mountains. You get the idea that he got the land and then invited these other people. How he found these other people, I'm not sure. Maybe he may, and it may have been more of, instead of I care about these 10 people, it may have been these 10 people are smart scientists and can help me achieve my goals. Because they do come up with, at the very beginning of the story, the reason Narodny goes off and does this is because his employer, can I read this?
Yeah.
Actually, his employer.
This could help crack something open, maybe.
Okay. Okay. Narodny was a poet, the last poet. Very first page of the story. He did not write his poems in words, but in colors, sounds, and visions made material. So he's like using technology and science to make visual art that he calls poetry. Also, as a side note, he was a great scientist. In his particular field, the greatest. 30 years before, Russia's Science Council had debated whether to grant him the leave of absence he had asked or to destroy him.
Yeah.
Like, your employer, and I realize this is 30th century and like maybe things are a little bit different, but I just thought it was interesting that like your employer can be like, well, do we let this guy take a vacation or do we just nuke him?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. They didn't say kill him, destroy him, whatever
destroy
that
him. Like I'm imagining like ripped limb, like when you destroy something, that is like violent.
Right. Okay, I want to get engaged with some of these comments. Lord
Yeah,
Hunters, welcome. Never too late. Woo, the psychopathic Ubermensch story. Yeah, we were actually sort of talking about that. Con. Hey,
sorry.
It's a bit like Lex Luthor collecting his coterie of visitants. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definite supervillain vibes. He is in a cavernous lair of 100 caves underground with his like minions and disciples. Yes, supervillainous assistants. And I mean, he's there to number one and only serve himself. He is the most self-centered person I think I've ever read about. He will like, sometimes you watch like a movie or read a book where there's like a super villainy sort of villain and you're like, really? Like, do you really want to take over the world? That seems very, but like this guy is literally not capable of caring and will shut down the world to get his music back.
Well,
Like,
see, even that, I want to take over the world. That's like an active, clear.
mm,
This
yeah,
person doesn't even want anything, right? Like
no,
they're just, it's so indulgent. It's almost just like this guy is living in the Ritz. You know, there's those rich people that like live in hotels and they get like a
yes,
room. I learned that this is also true on cruises. There are people that live on cruise ships.
no
I know.
way.
Let's use that one because I feel like that one's
Okay.
even, because cruise ships are more like wild and all the weird stuff you can do. He's just living on his cruise ship and essentially for decades and decades living on his cruise ship. And finally, there's like a glacier threatening the cruise ship. That's the only thing that activates a supervillain trying to take over the world.
That's true.
They at least like there's something that they want and they're going after it. This person is just like
Mm.
living in their little bubble and only exercises their will when that bubble is threatened.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. This is somebody who is like apathetic about humanity and yeah, they don't want anything. That's such a good insight. Like usually, when we look at characters and stories, the first question you ask is like, what does this character want? Like, what is their motive? What is driving them? Because your character is going to push forward your story. Like, that's how you get a story, is your character takes action. And you're right. I shouldn't say hero. I don't want to say that of Narodny, but he's completely passive. And it's very unusual. It's very unusual.
Passive yet all powerful. I mean,
Yes.
it's just like, I don't know. So, I mean, do we just not like this story, Sarah? I mean, I
Mm.
don't know. Let's just get, should we just get critical here and
Yeah, let's
write
do.
the editorial about this, the review? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, what I just don't, I don't know. I don't know. I whatever the story was trying to do, I think I either missed it. I don't know. I just really struggling with this one.
Yeah. So I had a thought when you were talking about how Narodny is all powerful yet passive. I wonder if this is we're in the aftermath of World War One, and I wonder if this is a reflection. And this is out of left field. This is not a literary theory or anything. Like this is Sarah with her brain coming up with this. I'm wondering if he's looking at Narodny like a dispassionate God that lets terrible things happen for no reason
Mhm.
and steps in to help for no reason and is cold and dismissive. I'm not saying that's like the core of the story or the meaning of the story. It just made me think a little bit like, how can you not care about humanity, right? How could a loving God let something like World War One and then, every other war, like how could God let that happen? And I think it's interesting that passage that I read earlier about the Greek sort of parallels is Narodny is literally watching wars happen. He watches Persepolis rise and fall. He watches the siege of Troy. He watches Orpheus die. Um, he's watching for entertainment. He's watching wars happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to point out this comment by the lore huntress. The author described him as an evolved human. He's described as a wave out of many that reached closest to
Mm,
the sun. His wave rose above the sea of stupidity.
okay, this is such a good. Sorry, I feel like I interrupted you, Asa.
No, jump, go, go, go.
Are you sure?
No, you didn't.
Okay.
You really didn't.
Okay. That wave, I wrote some thoughts on the wave. I think this is a sardonic view of how Narodny sees himself. I think this is a disgusting portrayal. I think this is a dangerous human being, a person without empathy, a person who sees himself. Well, Asa, you even brought up like white nationalism, Fourth Reich. Like, this is a person who does not question that they are superior. And through that superiority, they get to choose the fate of the lesser beings around them. But we're right.
Yeah, no, I mean it's that simple. I mean it's very straightforward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very straightforward. And there's different ways that humans can evolve, right? So Narodny is very smart and very good at science and sees himself as a visionary, and he sees himself as a poet. Um, and he's powerful enough that his delusions aren't punished. Like, he's powerful enough that he can get away with this stuff. He's not your average like Miniver Chivi who's just like laying on a couch somewhere being sad about himself. Like, this is a person with wealth and power. And um it, yeah, so it's
I think so much happens in the story too that
yeah,
implicit is that there is no real God or cosmic power.
right.
You know, there is no one above Narodny, right?
Yeah,
He's
right.
because given everything that happens in this story, like if there was, then that entity would have intervened or something. Even just
Right.
like fate seems, even like the chaos, just to get super philosophical with it, just
Yeah.
even like the power of like randomness seems not in play when
Right.
Narodny's in play. Like if
Right.
Narodny is in the game, there are no rules, you know?
No, he is the rule. Like,
He is the
Narodny
rule,
is the
right?
rule. Like, he calls it. He says, you do this, bring the ship down. Everything he says happens exactly as he says it. He does not
Yes.
have any missteps in his mind. He is not questioned. He is not challenged, because there's nobody to do that.
Yeah.
So we have this. We have a veneration of human culture in art and music, in verse, in all of these beautiful things. We have the depiction of war and killing through these tools of beauty and creation. And that happens in both Narodny looking at what's happening and in us reading the story where this is happening. It's a beautifully written story. For any critiques we may have on this piece, I will not say it's not beautifully written. Like,
Right.
may I read just a short piece?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. This is just from the very beginning of the story. He's describing Narodny's underground cave world. It was a realm of which he was the sole ruler, which I think echoes later when he's making decisions for the entire planet. It was one of 100 caverns. In certain caverns, garlands of small suns shone, and in others, little moons waxed and waned over earth. There was a cavern in which reigned perpetual dawn, dewy over lily beds and violets and roses, and another in which crimson sunsets, baptized in the blood of slain day, dimmed and died and were born again behind the sparkling curtains of the aurora. You want to talk about poetry?
Yeah, no, it's very Shakespearean right there, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, that is, yeah, I think that's a great observation and an important one to remind because, like, you know, this brings to mind, I had this observation of the very last paragraph of The Summer People by Shirley Jackson, and we talked about it during Story Club, where the language of that story is so tight and controlled. And then at the very end, it like sort of opens up, like just opens the throttle a little bit and it gets more poetic and expressive.
Yeah.
You know, and so in that story, the restraint around language then has like kind of a payoff here, you know, my point here is that like it's the nature of the language clearly is really important to this story, and I think could be part of the key that maybe we're missing, or at least I feel that I'm missing, is that like maybe the deep beauty and poetry of the actual sentences is actually really important. It's not just that this writer is a strong writer telling a story with precision and beauty, but maybe actually that's at the heart of the message of the story, perhaps. I don't know. I
like that. I like that. I like that.
Laura Hunter says, he says that time does not matter to them. Yeah.
They've invented, like, time doesn't matter. They've invented things that keep them young forever. I mean, they're Olympian gods under the earth. I think, I don't know if this is something that was frustrating for you, Asa, but you know, you're talking about like, what do we take from this story, right? We have pretty words. We have a very interesting, unlikable character. Can you read the last paragraph for us?
Yeah.
It's pretty short.
Yeah. Here it is. Narodny watched the ships take off. He shook his head doubtfully, but soon harmonies were swelling through the great cavern of orchards and nymphs and fauns dancing under the fragrant blossoming trees, and the world was again forgotten by Narodny.
So, context, humans are leaving Earth. They're going to the moon. They're evacuating. They're getting into ships and they're leaving. At least that was how I interpreted what was happening here. That might not be correct. Let me know in the comments if I am not correct. Humanity is leaving. And Narodny stays in his caverns, unchanged, uncaring, apathetic. He just wants to watch his stories.
Yeah, and like, I'm just banging my head against this wall. Yes. I'm just like, what is up? Like, what, you know, he doesn't change in the course of the story. He's like jamming to his underground cosmic tunes. They're threatened. He goes and kills everyone. And then he goes back underground. I'm struggling.
Completely unchanged. Completely unchanged. And I mean, arguably you could say that creating art is about creating change. At least in my mind, like that is how I interpret it. We create art to connect with people. We create art to express ourselves, to change minds, to get people to feel, get people to act. And I mean, I guess one of the points of this might be the irony that, you know, as much as he loves all of this art, he doesn't actually get it. Like,
okay, that's plausible. That's plausible. I feel like if that is what A. Merritt is trying to do, then they need to do it clearer. Okay? I'm starting to get worked up.
I love this. I love this. Do it.
You know, maybe he is like a third cousin, and I'm just like, my man, you're just doing the namesake all wrong here. Like, it's like if there's like an allegory here around, like if you have your head in the sand and you're just, we hear, you know, the stories like this are great today. It's like we have the super rich building their bunkers so that when the world ends, they'll have like their rations to hang out by themselves and like unlimited DVDs. You know, if that's the story that's being told here, then let's tell it a little more clearly. And let's do away with these other 10 minions of the underworld. And let's like maybe just make it about people, not robots, clarify the metaphor a little bit. But okay, you know what? Ranting never got us anywhere, did it? Except for like the chest.
I think it does.
Chest is clear. I mean, okay, the one thing we haven't talked about that feels apt for our time and place is the real kind of engagement here with artificial intelligence. So
yes.
I'm going to read one paragraph about that.
Yes, please.
Well, it seems that life has begun to establish its rhythm in the robots. Consciousness has touched them. The proof? They have established the idea of common identity, group consciousness. That in itself involves emotion, but they have gone further. They have attained the instinct of self-preservation. And that, my wise friend, connotes fear, fear of extinction. And fear connotes anger, hatred, arrogance, and many other things. The robots, in short, have become emotional to a degree, and therefore vulnerable to whatever may amplify and control their emotions. They are no longer mechanisms. So we definitely have, I mean, it's just really interesting how many ways and times the specter of artificial intelligence has activated the human imagination. I mean, we've talked about this so many times. We talk about like the Terminator movies. We've seen it already in this collection. Other stories. We obviously have active discourse today around ChatGPT, generative AI, AI in medicine, all this good stuff. I mean, and here we have it here. Did this strike you? I mean, I give it a big underline, but can you speak specifically at all, Sarah, about how this struck you in any kind of way?
Yeah, it did.
Mateo, I see your comment too. I want to engage with that in a second. Go ahead, Sarah.
So there's this like, also again, George Lucas, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate. Come on, buddy. So the robots having consciousness, Narodny says a little bit earlier that robots are primal matter, and something happened where it is what we call life. Life is consciousness and therefore largely emotion. And he's talking about this, and something that I noticed earlier was, in addition to the narrator openly comparing Narodny to Satan, what does it mean to be alive? I don't think Narodny he's biologically alive and he's smart, but I don't think he is alive. I think these AI robots who fear for their lives and who scream as they die are more human than Narodny.
I like that take. And I also think the text, as it were, supports that. At some point, doesn't it even say like he was human in body?
Yes.
Talking about
Yes.
Narodny.
Yes.
And I love this, like bringing up I just remembered the whole business of Satan being a fallen angel. That tracks perfectly with this story. He's underground. While you're looking there, Sarah, I'm going to bring up some of the comments. Mateo Leon Rodriguez, author, I think as writers, what we can take away from this is if you make your readers hate your character enough, they will be stuck in their mind far longer than a boring character. I don't know about you, Mateo. I'm hoping to forget this character shortly. Maybe not. I don't know. If the robots have emotions now, does this cycle continue? Will the robots eventually also try to leave? Well, he kills all the robots, so there's no more robots.
The robots are gone.
The deal with the robots.
But you know what, Mateo? The war between the humans, and it's a global war. It is not confined to one country. It is like the entire world. Every country is human versus robot, human versus this. And the story does not say artificial intelligence. Like they are conscious, like somehow they are living. The story refers to this conflict as a civil war. And I don't know. I think this has a lot to do with how we view Narodny. He is not part of humanity. He is not part of this war. He has isolated himself in his creepy little bunker. Sorry, I have like a lot of thoughts right now. If you have anything, please chime in, or I will keep ranting.
I mean, I've just sort of, my being has like lodged itself in this place of like obstinate frustration that
I love how much you hate this. I really do. I'm sorry.
I don't know why. I just think I just some kind of hashtag mood here. It's just like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what these feelings are that I have. But I don't think I mean, I am curious, per usual, what, if anything, we can pull from this as writers. I mean, I am a sucker for the Western tradition, and, I was like a Latin kid, and just the quality of these sentences, like the one you read, that really did just the sheer, this is written in an idiom of someone who clearly came up reading books like that. And it just is like a reminder of like, yeah, you can write really amazing sentences if you read a bunch of them, so I definitely have that feeling right now. And then, yeah, I mean, I guess it's just that also that guardrails notion of like, okay, what do I not want? Is this teaching me anything about what I don't want to do as a writer? And yeah, I think it is this interesting, and I'm glad you brought this up earlier. It's like, what is a villain that we want to root for? What's a villain that we connect with, that we want to spend time with? And what is a psycho, like Ubermensch type, as you correctly brought up, Laura Huntress, I think that we definitely don't want to be don't want to be spending time with. And what is satire, and why don't I get it? Or if I get it, why doesn't satire speak to me? Or is satire like comedy and rarely holds up over time and is like speaking to a cultural moment?
That might be part of it. I was not alive in 1934, so that might be.
All right. I want to hear what you think. Yeah. All right. Matteo, Merritt said in an interview that as long as there was rock on Earth, Narodny would continue to convert the energy to maintain his cave paradise. Asa, that hatred you feel for the character is the hatred I have for Professor Umbridge in HP.
Matteo, I was literally thinking about Professor Umbridge. Like someone, you go past hating them and you love to hate them. Like it feels good. It feels righteous. It feels morally good to hate them. Yeah. Like you feel better about yourself because you hate them.
Oh man.
So yeah, I think it's interesting in going back to that introduction by the Vandermeers. I think it's what blows my mind is that we're looking at a popular writer. We're looking at like a Stephen King or a Brandon Sanderson. We're looking at Danielle Steele or, whatever the equivalent. Right. And then he's extremely popular. He's extremely pessimistic. And he comes out with something like this. A writer this popular, a lot of people would have probably read this. It was published, I believe it was, it was published in Fantasy Magazine in 1934. Originally, he wrote it for a round robin novel, but
do we know what that was? Mateo was asking.
Yes.
Is that
you mean the round robin novel?
Yeah.
It was called Cosmos, and it was a whole bunch of it was a serialized novel that was come up with by Julius Schwartz and Raymond A. Palmer, 16 authors who wanted to just like create this ongoing series, and it was just called Cosmos. Later, I think they were all just published as short stories. I think the project was a little too ambitious. But it was going to be like an anthology, I suppose, of maybe unrelated stories or just stories that had to do with space and science fiction. But I don't believe it was published.
Right. Oh, man.
So, okay. I'm thinking about allegory because I really like what you said earlier, that you're looking for an allegory. I can't believe that a writer with this amount of talent and insight would write an allegory that is basically no art bad, art good, love art feel good, no kill. Like, right? Like,
well, I think that like it's perhaps a direct rejection. I think that like maybe the most plausible take here, which we sort of landed on earlier, is that this is like a parody of the canon, a rejection of the canon. That if you define your life by, the Greeks and Beethoven, Herodotus, if your entertainment is like watching the fall of Troy, you're going to be a sad and lonely genius.
I think that's super.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
Yeah,
works.
I think that works for me.
If that's the story you want to tell, I would love to read a sort of different like version of that. But hey, you know, we're not the Vandermeers, and we did not choose the last poet and the robots.
Mm.
But I mean, I do
Okay.
think, yeah, I don't, yeah. Anyway,
I have one more thought. So
yeah,
I'm sorry I keep bringing this up. I don't know who has read this and who hasn't. So this poem, Miniver Cheevy, Edward Arlington Robinson, uh, early 1900s. Um, this is this like super unhappy person. He hates the era. He romanticizes the past, which is what Narodny is doing. I'm wondering if so this poem was published in 1910, 20 years before this story. And maybe I'm pushing this too hard just because my mind is like linking like, there's a connection, vague as it may be. Um, but he's unhappy, he loves the past, and he takes no action. Like, so that's Narodny until something irritates him. But the point of Miniver Cheevy is that it's about a person who wastes their life because they're not living in the now. Like
yeah,
they're not living. He's like sitting on a couch being like, well, if only I had been born in the times of knighthood, I could have rescued princesses. And it's like, my dude, like what might have been, you're letting your regrets like preclude living, right? So I feel like that poem is very pointed and like, so I think what I'm saying is
well,
it
that
could
you
have,
see again. What the difference there is that our character has a relatable experience, which is like longing
yeah,
and a feeling of not realizing one's self potential. You know,
that is
like
deeply human. Yeah.
Neroni
Yeah.
has no hangups.
Mm-mm. You know what? This all goes back to what you said at the very beginning of this discussion. I can't relate to Narodny because he does not act like a human. There's nothing he does that I can relate to. And so what is
Yeah,
his
including
purpose?
like really nasty, terrible stuff. I mean, you know, we read books of monsters, and we are wrapped because at some level, like we feel like, you know, we can relate. Um, I want to engage with some of these comments here.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
great. So Lore Hunter says, Mateo, yeah, round robin is collaborative writing, everyone working together on a single story book. It does sound like fun. TV writers room, folks.
Hey.
Well, do you hate the allegory or the character, Asa?
Mm.
Mateo, that's a very personal question. No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't hate anything because, you know, being truly intelligent,
Oh, yes. Precludes all hate.
precludes all hate. I don't know. All right, maybe he doesn't know what to do with his evolved humanity. He's ultimately limited. That's true. Right. I mean,
He's
at some level,
loathsome.
he is creating down there, right? Like he's orchestrating. You know what I mean? There is
he's curating.
He's curating, but he's also making stuff too, isn't he? Like moving the moons to make moon music. I have a line that he was master of sound. To him, the music of the spheres was real. He could take the rays of the stars and planets and weave them into symphonies, or convert the sun's rays into golden tones no earthly orchestras had ever expressed. And the silver music of the moon, the sweet music of the moon of spring. I mean, he is an artist. I don't know.
I know. Well, okay, he's making beautiful things, but he's completely detached from humanity. Also, I noticed in your reading of that, I had forgotten about the emphasis on his mastery of sound, which eventually is what like defeats the robots at great human expense.
Right.
So I don't know. I present that with just like narrative thread A to B. He good with sound. He used sound to win. Like,
yeah. I think. Yeah. Well.
but yes, okay. You were asking like, what can we take away from this experience?
Yeah. Is there more that we can take away?
It's so interesting because when you read a story, there's a lot of different things you can take from it. Like as a reader, you can take enjoyment, you can take inspiration. You can say, "Wow, I really loved this bit about the blood of the slain day baptizing the sunset." Like there's craft there that I can appreciate. And then, reading it to learn something, reading it to analyze something and say like, "Oh, is there an allegory here and what can I take away from that?" That part I'm not necessarily taking anything away from. Although maybe I'll have some inspirational thoughts tomorrow or something and I'll let you know. But I think really what I'm taking out from this is I was compelled to read this story because I wanted to see if Narodni would get a comeuppance. I was like hanging on to this story until the end because I was like, he's got to pay for this. He's got to pay for this somehow.
Yeah.
And I think that ties in with what I like in a story to make the story satisfying. So like Mateo, your earlier reference to Dolores Umbridge from the writer who will not be named, that ends up being satisfying because Umbridge ends up getting shredded to pieces by centaurs. And it's like satisfying arc. So like it makes me think, what is the purpose of creating an unsatisfying ending to your story?
Okay, I'll go there with you, Sarah. I'll
Yeah.
go there with you. I actually have like an out today in about 5 minutes. So
Oh my gosh.
we'll have to,
Okay, so that's
I know.
good to know.
Unfortunately. So, because we recently talked about Thomas Ligotti.
Mhm.
Thomas Ligotti, this writer who, Laura, I know you've read some as well. This is a nihilist of sorts. Their fiction presents dark, gloomy worlds of hopelessness in many ways. Something about those stories for me is like sees those feelings in me and like as a witness affirms my experience. It's like,
Mm.
okay, I'm not crazy for thinking that this is terrible, right? So it's
Okay.
like, it's not like they're satisfying endings, but they satisfy.
Oh,
right?
that's a good point.
Whereas here, it neither satisfies nor is satisfying.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't like, it's not satisfying in the same way that you described Umbridge's death, but nor does it like hit some spot.
Right.
That
You
I
don't
need
feel
to
seen
feel.
or validated, right? It's not like earlier I said we create art to connect with people. Like there's nothing to connect with in this story
Yeah.
because it's completely inhuman.
Yeah. Sounds like that's a no. Asa, there's only hate. I don't know exactly what that refers to, but yeah, you're probably right, Laura Huntress.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah.
And that's
well,
okay. Like that's valid. I want to say just as we wrap
Yeah.
up here, you're not going to love every story you read, and that's completely valid. Even if other people like it, completely valid. Similarly, everything that you write is not going to be beloved by everyone, and that is also okay. Like,
Yeah, totally. I think that's all important. And yeah, sometimes it's also just so random how like I'm not saying I would have loved this story tomorrow or would have loved it yesterday, but it is wild how like who knows, maybe you just read it on the wrong day.
Exactly.
Which is real. Which is very real.
Yeah.
Y'all, an announcement. So Sarah and I, for the time being, may be putting Sci-Fi Story Club on pause in favor of a deeper, more focused approach on Horror Story Club and the Friday workshop. We're going to experiment with that this Friday. We are going to combine Horror Story Club with the workshop and just kind of see how that feels. We're just going to kind of see how that feels. And pursue that a little bit. So yeah, that is kind of the announcement for now on pause. The story, Sarah and I are definitely going to be continuing to discuss stories. Which stories and how might continue to evolve. There's definitely other stories in this collection that Sarah has pointed out, we should definitely read this. And so, we're only 2 stories away from Borges here. So, we might be dipping into this. We're trying to figure it out. But changes, the winds of change are afoot. Lore Hunters, Asa, be kind to your potential ancestor, A Merit. LL. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I know. I know. This is what I think. I think maybe my venom is being activated. Like maybe I'm actually just like really. There's a picture of this dude in my attic somewhere. And I'm just.
It's
This is all
melting.
like self-loathing. Oh, exciting.
Yes.
And I saw your comment about bad writers. Yeah. So anyway, that's the game plan. And if you're on the Discord, then DM us or public M us about kind of
Public
thoughts.
MS.
We are in conversation with y'all, and y'all are at the heart of this project. So I just anything that you think too. I mean, I'm excited about potentially reading some other classic stories, and certainly stories that more folks can find without buying these anthologies are useful. We're trying to sort it out. We're trying to sort it out.
I was about to say, I also have a rich source of other speculative fiction material.
Right, the weird book.
So
which
we've got weirdness.
which is very exciting. But above all, Sarah and I are doing this to improve our own craft as writers and working on our own projects, and we will be sharing those as they get published. Anyway,
and we hope you will too.
Yeah. Any parting thoughts here, Sarah?
Yeah, just again, just as a reminder, we will not be here tomorrow, but we will be here on Friday for a combination story club and writing seminar, webinar, workshop, whatever we're calling it. Workshop. I like workshop. I'm also, if you're interested tonight, I am hosting a ride along from 7 to 9 p.m. Central. If you want to pop by, you're more than welcome. Yeah, otherwise, thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here. And if you want to join the Discord and are not already a part of the Discord, I'm going to put that there in the comments for your enjoyment. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you all Friday, and we'll probably see some of you on the Discord before then.
Wonderful. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.